Okay, you ready to get started?
And not quite.
Just 1 second. We just have to get it posted to the website.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got the little notice saying that it was live, so.
It is now, but everybody's got to know how to find it. That's the next step we got to do. And they don't give us the URL until we set the meeting up. That's the
Just that awkward silence. I wanted to make sure you weren't waiting on me. Glenn, did you make it back?
Oh yeah, he's
Yeah,
here.
I'm here.
Mine just says that he's connecting to audio, so I didn't know.
I don't know. I'm trying to have it up on my desktop because I don't have a webcam. So I'm zooming through my phone so that I can talk that way and then following everybody on the computer. So I'm trying to piecemealing it over here.
I understand.
Complicated technology these days.
Let me see if I can fix something. Hold on.
Hey, Alan, I emailed you the YouTube link for the website. We just need it uploaded to the website.
Okay, you're sending me the link for the YouTube. Okay, let me. Oh, I just got it. Okay, let me. I'm copying it over there now. Give me 1 minute.
All right, Darby, you good to go?
Okay, great. A meeting of the Louisiana State Board of Medical Examiners Occupational Therapy Advisory Committee pursuant to lawful notice is duly convened and called to order at 10:38 a.m. Friday, October 28th, 2022 via Zoom virtual video. Please note any comments by the public are welcome and can be emailed to publiccomment@lsbme.la.gov. Dr. Van, please confirm that you have verified the identity of all the tele and video conference participants. Just
We
said
have
so.
Darby. You can move on.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, my machine's not working. We have confirmed it. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Is the sound clear and audible to the public and those on tele and video conference? Okay. All additions to the executive or public agenda must be made presently, as we will no longer make additions to the agenda after the close of the public sessions. Members present are as follows: Darby Philibert, Ingrid Frank, Brenda Martin, Raylena Crooks, Amy Lavriere, Amy, and Glenn Wallace. And we also have guests of Susie Allen and Patricia Wilton. The members that are absent are Kelly Brandon, Carolyn Murphy, and Kimberly Solari. Ingrid, can you please confirm that we have a quorum?
Yes, we have a quorum of 6 members.
Okay, are there any other guests?
No.
Okay, great.
I'll let anyone else answer.
We're just going to quickly review the mission of the Occupational Therapy Advisory Committee. The mission is ultimately to protect the public, that is the consumers of occupational therapy, by regulating competent practice and upholding the standard set forth by the governing rules and regulations. So our first agenda item under old business is approval of the minutes. So the minutes from the meeting on September 16th, which were respectfully submitted by Ingrid Frank. Does everyone have access to a copy of those minutes? Okay, they've been posted online, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're not posted until you approve them.
Oh, gotcha. You're right. Okay.
Shared in the-
I'm sorry, Ingrid?
They were shared in the cloud link.
Oh, that's correct. Okay. Do we have any changes to the minutes?
There's one small error that I had put Amy Yarbrough as being the person who approved the minutes from the previous meeting. That should be corrected to Amy Lavier. But also the minutes were very redacted compared to what I had turned in.
Yeah, we were hoping that Mary would be online to kind of explain to you the redactions that took place in the minutes. Mary goes ahead and she reviews all of the minutes. So we do keep a copy of the minutes that you submit to us regarding your notes that we can share with the committee. I didn't want to upload it to the cloud share because that doesn't allow you to print documents, but the redactions were made due to the fact that we only put the action items in there. So the notes are not included. And if you kind of look through all of the minutes, including our board minutes, that's how they're done. So those redactions were done by Mary. We thought she would be on the meeting, but she's not on here yet.
What does it mean that it said that no further action is taken on the rules portion, because we're ongoing making revisions to those at every meeting. So I didn't understand the phrasing there, no action needed, or however it was. I don't know, Darby, if you can you share the screen with the minutes?
I don't know if I have permission, but I do have them pulled up.
I just gave you permission, Darby. That just means that you didn't motion on that particular item at that time. It doesn't mean that there's not going to be any more further work done to the rules.
It
Oh.
just means you're not going to approve them until you get everything together in one.
Oh, okay, I understand.
And then the other question I would be willing to, I know Mary would ask you if she was here, as you all are making those changes, please keep I hope you're having a markup copy so that we can, when it's time to go to the legislature with these rules, we can have the markup copy and don't have to redo everything, go back and compare them and do them myself. So I hope you're keeping a marked up copy of those rules and we can share them at the end or whatever you want.
Yes, we are doing a markup copy.
Thank you.
Okay. So can you all see it on the screen? Do I have the right screen up? Because I think I have like 5 screens open.
You do.
Okay. I can't tell which one y'all are seeing. So right here, number 2, we need to change the motion of Amy Yarbrough to Amy. Amy, tell me how to say your last name again.
Lariviere.
Lariviere. I'm trying, Amy. It's been years, but I'm still working.
Darby, sorry. I just wanted to let you know that Mary is currently on the meeting now. If Ingrid wanted any further clarification on the redactions to the minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Mary. When I look at minutes like this, if I was a member of the public, I would feel like I don't know what happened in the meeting, and it doesn't. I guess I thought that the minutes would be an opportunity for the public to look at our proposed changes and updates to rules and then be able to voice whether they agree or not, or, just to be public about what we're discussing.
Absolutely. So when you are doing proposed changes to rules, that document is a public record. And anybody that wants it could ask for that draft that's been discussed in a public session. normally we don't put it in the minutes such as what you guys had. It is a separate document, and it's either, you know, changes are approved or they're not, and they're reflected in the document. And so that was the only change I made. That's just normally how we do it for the board. And there is a regulatory report that's available, and we could also put it on your OT advisory committee website if that's something that y'all want to do. But normally there's not as much of the discussion part so much as this was considered and then the vote.
Okay. So what could you just restate what we could put onto the website?
So the board has a regulatory progress page, and when the board votes to start a regulatory process, it's something that we put on the website. The committee's recommendation is frankly even before promulgation begins. And so that's why it's not something that we've done heretofore, but that's perhaps something I can discuss with Dr. Collada later, if that's something y'all are interested in.
I feel better that you're telling me that if any occupational therapist wanted to request a copy of the draft notes, you know, of the things we discussed, that they could have access to that. I don't want this to be sort of a mystical process that we're going through, you know, or cloak and dagger or anything.
Right. No, not at all. You know, you guys, you put it up on the screen. I'm sure you talk about the changes you want to make.
Mhm.
So it's not, I mean, y'all are on public record. Y'all are advertising this to the public. It's on YouTube. So there's nothing cloak and dagger about it. But certainly any public document that, you know, is given to the committee, or that the committee uses in public session, is something that any member of the public could get.
Dr. Van has his hand raised.
Dr. Mann?
Yes, what I would like to tell you is everybody can look at this meeting as it happens. Everybody can go back and look at the meeting next week if they didn't get a chance to see the meeting anytime they want, day or night, Saturdays, Sundays, whatever. And ultimately, you all are recommending to the board a rule change. What happens is the board then takes that under advisement, accepts, rejects, or modifies, and then starts the formal rulemaking process. At that point, there are numerous opportunities for public comment. What would happen, so you'll understand, is that first thing we do is we do a fiscal and economic impact statement as we notice the first proposed rule change. After that's done, we then have a hearing, okay, a public hearing of the board, not of this advisory committee. And just so you'll know, it would be helpful when that happens if the advisory committee would show up and say, we really appreciate you adopting this as the way it is, or whatever. If they have any questions, they can ask you and you can answer for the committee. At that point, once that hearing is done, it's then going to be sent to the Attorney General's office to make sure that there's no antitrust issues and that we're doing everything in a proper way to prevent antitrust. Then it's going to be then finalized and sent to the notice to the register. And then there is a opportunity for oversight hearings, so that if anybody wanted to say, well, I don't like what they've done, I'm call my senator and get them to have oversight, then they can have an oversight hearing in either the House or the Senate Health and Welfare Committee. And then if there's no oversight, then it goes to the governor's office, and the governor's office has the final approval. So there's a number of opportunities for public comment along the way and people to be involved. And I think, you know, they can actually see the discussions going on anytime, night or day. So I think you're doing everything to make it public. I don't think you're hiding anything, Ms. Ingrid.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I apologize for not being on earlier. I wasn't aware there was going to be a question about this. So I just got notice of it as it started. So sorry about that.
That's okay. We really just, the question came up when we got the CloudLink share and looked at them, and we just knew that there was a discrepancy between what we submitted and what this was. So we just needed to get some clarification to make sure that the public
Sure.
had access to it if they wanted it.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Okay, so Ingrid, are we okay with that?
Yes, yeah, you can request someone to approve.
Okay. All right, so would someone like to motion that the minutes be approved with that change?
I motion to accept. This is Brenda.
Okay, thank you, Brenda. Did someone to second it?
I'll second. This is Raylina.
Thank you, Raylina. Okay, are there any public comments?
No, there are no public comments at this time through the email system, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the next agenda item is going to be the rules and regulations review and update. When we get started, we'll mark the time since we've agreed to 1 hour. First, before we start this, Ingrid, did you want to do this first, or would you rather do the laws and rules course and quiz?
If we can skip to the laws and rules course and quiz, that'd be great, especially since we do have Susie Allen on here.
Okay, yeah, that's why I was asking. Is everyone okay with that? Then we're gonna jump to that, and that way Susie won't have to sit through the review update. Okay, so this item is actually under the new business. It's the laws and rules course and quiz. I'm gonna let Ingrid kind of give you a brief update about what we're talking about, and then her and Susie have some information to share.
Okay, so Susie and I met on October 22nd and then again on October 27th. We went through all of the test questions. Susie had highlighted several of them that she wanted to ask if these were appropriate questions. We did delete about 7. So that leaves a total of what I think of as a question bank of 53 questions that can be used for a course quiz about our rules and laws. They are divided into topic areas: licensure, practice, supervision of occupational therapy assistants, causes for non-issuance, suspension, or revocation of your license, continuing professional education, and ethical issues and whistleblowing. We, at this point, agreed that Susie was going to work on revising the course slightly, just based on changes that were made, say, for example, with CE Broker and things like that, and then get that, I guess, set up the course. Then she is going to select the number of questions that she thinks would be appropriate to go with the course for the test. And she is going to select the questions. And then once she has done that, we're going to have, at our next meeting, we might have an executive session so that those questions that she has selected shared with all and approved by us as the questions that will be asked on the test. Prior to actually going live with the course and the test, Susie wants to put it on CE Broker for just me and maybe just one other person, or maybe just me, to actually go through the course, go through the test, and make sure from the user perspective that it looks okay.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So Susie, did I kind of cover everything?
You totally did. Thanks, Ingrid. And I first of all, I want to say I'm always asking advisory committees, please submit questions, and you all really did over the past whatever, and I really appreciate it because we do have this ability to have a question bank. Now, that being said, we have been giving a course, this course, which needed revision, but it's still a good course, to people for initial licensure in a Moodle related format. We are removing ourselves from that particular learning management system and going to CE Broker, and we might even temporarily, since rules take a while to be passed, go, also have the course for, for now, for initial licensure in Table Mesa, and that will phase out once one of the rules that we're working on right now is phased in. I think I spoke to you all about this, that, that we're working on a rule where all licensee groups, aside from anything else the individual committees decide, everyone will be taking this rules course upon first licensure. It makes the licensing process quicker, and it just standardizes. All groups are the same. Everyone takes it upon first renewal. So that's where we're moving towards. But anyway, what I do want to say is, for now, the CE Broker Learning Management System does not permit that question bank. Our current course actually does sort of have several questions where 2 or 3, possible questions get thrown in on the same concept. At first, that will not be the case in CE Broker. The test will be the test. Over time, they are in fact working on this from an IT point of view, and they will have that. And then we'll just load the questions in, sort of, different items, and that will be in effect eventually, but I'm not quite sure how long that's going to take them. So anyway, I wanted to thank you for submitting different questions, and, let you know this is kind of a work in, progress, and but what I probably will do, and I have to work with CE Broker about this, is I probably will put the course up after we've at least talked about some of the quiz questions in executive session, and then say to some of you, if you want to take it as is, please do it in the next day, because then we're going to unpublish it in case you have any suggestions, correct anything you find, and then put it up, and it's up. So just wanted to let you know that's the situation.
Susie, one question is for this to be phased in, is this going to require our rules and regs to change, or is this something like that's going to be more like broad for the board for all professions?
Well, we are right. I mean, it's basically laws and rules for occupational, therapy.
Okay, right.
It is being written as of now only on things which are in effect, because we cannot be saying you need to know this new rule if the new rule has not yet been passed. So right now it's just going to be sort of as is. The nice thing about the CE Broker format is that when you all are done working on your rules and they do eventually get promulgated, making the changes in the course will be much easier than it is in the current format.
Okay. So my next question was going to be like, when is the goal for this to be phased in? But obviously it's going to be contingent on our rules and regs getting
right.
Like, okay.
Right.
All right.
Okay. I just want to clarify, I think, Darby. So we want to get the course up on CE Broker as soon as possible for occupational therapists to just be able to take the course as a free one-unit CEU.
Right.
So that's one piece of it. And I think Susie's just going to work on trying to get the course ready, test it with a few of us, and get it up there.
Okay.
Then in terms of the test and phasing that in with at the first renewal as opposed to initial application, my understanding, and Susie or Dr. Van could correct me, is that we do not have to change our rules to state that because the board has changed it for everybody. Is that right, Dr. Van?
It's just that's a licensing process issue that you don't have to worry about having a rule about.
Okay.
You will have to take it you have to take it sometime, and the board has determined that in order to expedite licensing, we don't want to hold up anything, getting a course or anything like that. So everybody will take it before their next renewal. And as we're doing a global CME change, that'll be in there. You don't have to specifically change it in your rules.
Okay. And then just one other thing that came up in the meeting with Susie yesterday was we, meaning OTAC, have for the last couple of years been talking about wanting to have to force OTs to reread the rules every year when they renew their license, and then have a short 5-question quiz to show that they did read it, with the possibility of changing questions in and out each year. And Susie indicated that might be administratively difficult for the board in our meeting yesterday. So I did want to bring that up too.
Well, again, we're going to change the main course around the question pool. The question I'm trying to understand is, if you want somebody to take it, it really is going to change a little bit as the course itself changes, because every time there's a different rule revision or change in the law, we will be doing that situation so that the next time the rules have to be taken by the new licensees, it will reflect the changes in the law. Now, if you want a different set of question pools for the 5 that you take, that could be more burdensome. If we can just draw them, if you want to just draw them out of the current set, we'll randomly pick them, and that's fine. Or Susie can say, I'm going to put anything that's new in the test in addition to 3 or 4 old questions or whatever. If there's no new, there'll be 5 old questions. If there's 2 new things, there'll be 2 new things and 3 old ones, if you just limit it to 5. But maybe Susie, as the education PhD around here, she may say, well, we need to make 10 questions this year because there's been so many changes. So if you limit it to 5, you may not get what you want. But again, the key is we want to try and keep it as current as we can and not just pull from old pools, but make sure that the data reflects the current law and rules in the test that they're taking anytime they take it, if you're taking it once a year.
Right. But I guess what I'm trying to get at is a difference between the initial, when a person initially applies for licensure in this state, I think 10 to 15 question test or whatever Susie decides is necessary is fine. I'm talking about upon renewal, that we've been talking about wanting to force OTs to review the rules and take a little quiz and they would obtain 1 credit every year for renewal. And that's where Susie is saying that she's not sure that changing out questions for a separate renewal quiz would be administratively possible.
Let me say what we're doing with, for example, the docs, okay? We're going to have that test updated whenever it needs to be for their first renewal, okay?
Mhm.
But the same test, exactly the same test, is available to any doc for continuing medical education credits on a free basis with the board, okay? So I can take that course every year and get those CME credits every year, okay? What I'm thinking is, why wouldn't you do just the same thing? Is that the same course that you would take on first renewal is the same course you would take for free CMEs every year. I think if you limit it to 5, we have to then, it's a little bit administratively hard for us to do that because we're going to update the course and then we're going to have to select the questions that, and if we did, it may need to be more than 5, it may need to, so again, I think if we just have the same test, because there's an old adage, the more time the fecal matter hits the barn door, the more likely it is to stick. And I think the key is the more exposed, if they don't want to take it, they don't want to take, our docs don't have to take it. If you want them to take it, let it be the same test so that they get very fast with the rules. Because as sure as you eliminate one question, somebody can say, well, I didn't know that. I don't remember that. Because remember, most of the OTs have not taken the whole course.
Okay.
And then I guess, another question, I don't know if this is really for the committee or Susie or Dr. Van, is once we require people to take it, what happens if they fail it?
The course is designed that you can take the test. Well, first of all, with this new format in CE Broker, every course has a pre-test in which I basically give the feedback whether an answer is correct or incorrect. You can't go back to it, but if you digest the pre-test, you sort of know what the correct answers are. Then you are forced to go look at all the material, and then you get a fairly similar, in some cases identical or fairly similar set of questions at the end, and you have to pass it.
Okay. Okay.
So but and let's get real here. The issue is the course is a vehicle to force our licensees to familiarize themselves with the rules. That's what it is. So we don't want to clobber people, but by the same token, we want to say, hey, as a practicing OT or whoever, all of our licensees in this state, you need to to be familiar with the rules. And some, and we really do try, and this is where you all come in. I really do try to get you to write scenario-based questions, because we really want to make sure that if people are in a situation where they are either tempted to do something wrong, they understand it's wrong, or just they're in a situation where they don't realize a certain, sophisticated nicety. So we're telling them.
Right, okay. Thank you, Ingrid and Susie.
Mhm.
So we'll just keep everyone updated on this as we progress. So from this, my understanding, Susie, is that you do not need anything else from us for this.
Not right now. I just want to, I want to finish with the course changes, and then I'm gonna, now that Ingrid and I have done what we've done, I want to just go through all the questions we agreed on and basically, select and pluck and say, okay, what do you, and the initial thing will be with Ingrid. This is what I put together. What do you think? And when we agree on that, then we will present it to all of you. Again, when we talk about the quiz questions, we talk about that, in executive session, because we don't want every interested party to have the answers already. But
Right.
everything else about the course can certainly be discussed in public session.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions? No? Okay. Are there any public comments on this, Dr. Van?
No, ma'am, no public comments have come in yet.
Okay, great. Thank you, Susie, so much. I know this is a lot of
Thank you
time
all
for
your participation in this. I really
you and
appreciate it.
Ingrid. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, guys, we can jump back to the old business of the rules and regs if everybody's ready. I'm just gonna quickly remind y'all, because we're gonna, Ingrid, I think we decided to do the share screen with you, right? So you can make the changes as we do it.
Yeah, I do need the ability to share the screen.
Okay, and then just as, if everybody needs to jot this down, the items that are in red were suggested from previous versions. Anything highlighted, we felt like we needed more information, either from AOTA or Dr. Van or a committee member. And then anything that's in green on the document has already been adopted by OTAC with a vote. It may not be this OTAC committee, it could be years previous as we move farther into the document. And the last discussion, I think we stopped at subchapter G for OTAC, since in the minutes it said that we voted to accept the proposed changes up to section 1951. Ingrid, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, that's correct.
And does anyone have any comments or reflections on the changes that we've previously made? No? Okay. All right, so we are going to mark the start time for the rules and regs as 11:08 so that we can commit an hour to this. And then we can get started.
All right, so yeah, we're getting started on subchapter G, the advisory committee.
So we're going to start, it actually jumps to 1957 with the constitution of the committee. So what we're going to look at here is, this is to assist the board in review of the applicant's qualifications for licensure, renewal of licensure under the chapter. The board shall constitute and appoint an occupational therapy advisory members, advisory committee, which shall be organized and shall function in accordance with the provisions of the subchapter. So that's basically just the information about the constitution of the committee. As long as no one has changes, we'll continue to 1959, the composition and the appointment. So the things that are in green here, just to remind y'all that previous OTAC meetings, stemming back, I don't know, Brenda, if you can remember, because I can't, how long ago some of these changes were made.
Way long.
Long time ago, long time.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that we can't change them, but these were previously done to the original, but have not been accepted by the board. So it was basically what we're doing now. So this is the composition and the appointment. Simply states that the advisory committee shall comprise 9 members, I guess it should say of 9 members, who shall be occupational therapists. 1 should be an OT assistant. If not, it may be an OTR.
That should probably say occupational therapy assistant spelled out and occupational therapist.
Yeah, I agree there. Licensed by the board and practicing and residing within the state of Louisiana, consisting more particularly of 1 licensed occupational therapist proficient in and representing each of the following areas of occupational therapy practice, insofar as it is practical. And this is because previously we had difficulty finding someone that had, expertise in particular areas. So the areas are administration and management, developmental disabilities, education, gerontology, mental health, physical disabilities, pediatrics, and assistive technology. Thoughts, questions? Everyone okay with this?
Looks good.
Did we want to keep the occupational therapy assistant as 1 should be as opposed to 1 will be? Do we want to keep the flexibility? Just throwing that out there.
Must be.
I mean, I think the flexibility is good. I think we should strive for it, but just like we got hung up in years past with not finding someone in a particular discipline, if we have that problem with finding an OT assistant, this leaves us the flexibility.
Okay. I agree. I just want to make sure.
Okay. I mean, the wording of that paragraph seems like it has so many extra words that aren't really necessary. I don't know if we should just sort of kind of try to clean it up or leave it as is, but I'm fine with the areas. I don't think if there's anything that's kind of new to the profession that should be included, or if y'all think it's something missing, but and honestly, I don't remember what I have to pull it up what the original said, but I know they didn't have assistive technology on there.
The originals were sensory integration therapists and work programs.
Right, work hardening or something?
It was work programs.
Okay. Okay. So if everybody's okay with that, we'll go on to B. The board will receive nominations and or suggestions for replacement members. There should be 3 candidates per position open for review by the board.
I did have a question here for Dr. Van. I think I know I kind of need clarified. Dr. Van, if we have a current member in good standing whose 2-year term is coming up, is almost about to end, but they want to remain on the board, do we have to publicize a request for nominations in that situation?
Technically, the governor's office would do so. I don't know that the board has ever asked us to do that on a reappointment. Ms. Pat and I can look at it and decide if what we think we need to do, but I don't think it's going to be a problem. Pat, you want to comment on it? You have any thoughts?
No, I agree with you. It should be fine, but we'll just nail it down for sure.
We would definitely prefer not to have to do a public request for nominations when we know that a member in good standing wants to do another term, because it would create the impression that there's a position that there isn't really,
Yeah, I mean, since it's a recommendation from the committee, it should be fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
So could we rephrase this then to say that for
For expiring terms, is that what you mean?
Yes, for expiring, yes, there you go.
Okay, so maybe we can just add that to that statement for review by the board for expiring terms.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to look, I can't remember if it comes up later. It might come up later.
I reviewed it this morning, and that particular issue that I just brought up about,
It's not in there.
and
Yeah.
I guess what we're really not saying expiring terms, actually, though, Darby, that's still not correct, because technically the 2-year term, every 2-year term is expiring. So it needs to,
First of all, how many, do you want to set a limit on how many 2-year terms somebody can serve?
That's in D.
in there, we already have 3.
All right,
It's
so
coming up in D.
why don't you put B, take this stuff about, and you're putting in B, the board will receive nominations for replacement members for expiring terms, okay? And that way, if there's not a replacement because somebody wants to continue to serve, we can address that in D and say if they want to continue to serve, the board will only approve continuing to serve, if that's what your concern is.
Yeah, it says in B that it's for replacement members.
Okay, now I get it. All right.
So it's not necessarily like for the people for the changing of the guard. So basically it wouldn't be if they're staying, it's just to replace them.
Gotcha.
Okay. So C is insofar as possible or practical in its appointment of members to the advisory committee, the board shall maintain geographic diversity so as to provide membership on the advisory committee by occupational therapists residing and practicing in North, Central, Southwestern, and Southeastern Louisiana. Yeah, and I mean, that's something we've tried to do. But as long as it's flexible. I mean, that is something that every time we've had a candidate nomination, we consider the geographic location. We okay with C? All right, D, of the board's initial appointment of members to the advisory committee following the effective date of these rules, 4 appointees shall be designated to serve terms expiring on the last day of the year of the appointment, and 5 to serve terms expiring on the last day of the year succeeding the year of appointment. Thereafter, each member of the advisory committee shall serve a term of 2 years, subject to removal at any time at the pleasure of the board. Members appointed to the advisory committee by the board to fill a vacancy occurring in the advisory committee other than by expiration of the designated term shall serve for the unexpired term. A member of the advisory committee may be appointed by the board for not more than 3 consecutive terms, which would be a total of 6 years. Other than the initial appointments provided for herein, board appointments to the advisory committee shall be effective when made with respect to the appointments for unexpired terms and otherwise shall be effective as the first day of the year following the date of the appointment. Ingrid, you're on mute.
Yeah, no, I said, it's a mouthful.
It's a lot. And it's like, you start to like say, like, what is it really saying? Like, basically, like if you're appointed like in November, you would expire like in 2 years of the last day of the year.
The way I read it is that if you were appointed, unless you're filling an unexpired term, everyone who's appointed does not start until January 1st.
The official appointment date.
That's how I read it.
That's how I understood it too.
Yeah.
So
how does that work? Because like, say for instance, Glenn, who was just the most recent, like he didn't start January 1, even though he was appointed in the middle of the year.
But that's because he was in an unexpired, he had to fill in an unexpired term. I'm talking more about
So it's voted in,
when
mean-
my 3 terms are up,
right?
that whoever replaces me, the start date would be January 1st.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense, right?
So just looking back, it feels like we would need to do a call for nominations in June
Right,
for anyone who's 6 years or up, or who just don't want to do it anymore,
right.
at the end of their term. And do we need to be specific like that in our rules? Would that be helpful? Or
Well, that would be for advertising, so that's not technically, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question, because I know like the process of advertising and then selecting is really all based on your dates of the meetings.
yeah, that's why I was thinking if you expect people to start on January 1st, then we would have to call for nominations by June, so that there would for sure be a meeting between, that and the end of the year for the committee to approve and then send it to the board for final approval.
So Dr. Van, do you feel like we need to put something in there based on your knowledge of the procedure to get someone through the process, with board approval and everything? Like, do we
Well,
need to-
I think the key here is how often do you all want to meet?
Well, at least quarterly.
It depends on how much is like. I mean,
Okay,
it
so if you
depends on
set
the
at least, if you set it at least quarterly,
quarterly, right?
you won't have a problem, okay?
Okay,
Because, we can selectively email all of the OT, AT people. And again, it's their responsibility to keep their addresses current, so they would get the emails. And if they don't look at their emails, that's not our problem. And then you could have the list compiled pretty quickly. I think the issue is if you're only going to meet once or twice a year, then it could be a problem. But if you meet quarterly, it really won't be a problem.
Dr. Van, should the fact that we feel like the OTAC should meet at least quarterly be in our rules? Should that be as in this section of the responsibilities of OTAC?
I
think
think that would put it there, yes.
it may be in here somewhere. Why do I feel like I've seen that?
I just reviewed this section this morning, Darby, and I didn't see anything about that.
I don't know what I was looking for, and I kind of thought I remembered seeing that. Okay. Yeah.
Let's see, constitution of the committee, appointment.
No, it goes in. Yeah, I think it might have been in it.
Oh, that's
I don't know
under
where it was.
duties. We haven't gotten there yet. Never mind.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I don't remember what I was looking up. It was like a couple of weeks ago, and I had to look something up, and I thought I found it. Okay, so we can, we'll keep that under the duties. Okay, so we really have no changes to this part, correct? Everybody, it's okay with like 2-year terms, total of 3 years, which would be 6 years total on the board. Everybody all right with that? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So let's move on to 1961. The delegated duties and responsibilities. The advisory committee is authorized by the board to, number 1, advise and assist the board in the ongoing evaluation of the occupational therapy licensing examination required by the board. Okay with that one? Assist the board in examining the qualifications and credentials of and interviewing applicants for occupational therapy licensure and make recommendations thereon to the board.
We don't do interviews anymore, and so you might want to take that out.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, but. So just take off,
I X'd through it.
okay, yeah. And then number
Now,
3.
do you all, how this is written is going to determine we may not be doing this right now. I don't know that you assist the board in examining the qualifications and credentials unless you want to put when requested by the board, assist when requested by the board in examining applications for occupational. So if we run into a problem, we might want to do it. But if you want to do it on all of them, I think that's going to be a little tough for y'all.
I mean, it may need to go like under A, like, because we really, like even for number one, we would only do it if requested by the board, right?
Well, that's what I'm trying to make you understand. You know, y'all are practically not doing what this says. And that's all I
Exactly.
want to make sure we make it practical and useful and easy to function. Okay.
I mean, is this something that the board, that this committee used to do?
You know, these rules are sold. I can't tell you what happened before I got here, quite frankly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember this. I mean, Brenda and I are probably the oldest on this committee, but like my knowledge, I don't know that we really. I
They
don't
used
know.
to do interviews.
Yeah, the interview part, but like as far as like,
I don't think so.
yeah,
And even number one, I'm like, I
Right.
keep like looking at that, like it says, advise about the occupational therapy licensing examination. That is so far above our pay grade. Like it's just the national exam. It's
right. Like we
so
don't
it's not
really
even
do
something
anything.
we would have any input on.
But that's where I'm not sure that we even we should keep it because we don't, like Dr. Rand said, that's
Right.
really not in our realm of
Right.
our mission or anything. Like,
It feels like what our role is I guess advising the board in what we do feel are what should be the credentials. And for example, as OTAC, we feel like in order to be licensed here, you have to pass the NBCOT exam.
right,
You have to have, no criminal background. You have to have a degree from
right.
this or that. So,
But like number one is not really our duty and responsibility anymore,
Right.
to my knowledge.
no.
I mean, number two, I guess we could, if it requested by the board, and we can keep reading to see what, but I mean, I don't know that we really even need to keep number one because it's like Brenda said, that's really not something that's even.
Is number two more of, rather than assisting with examining, is it advising the board on qualifications and credentials?
What's going to be when we have somebody that has a question, a problematic case,
Right.
might present it to you all for advice.
Okay. I guess I was thinking more, is there a place for that one of our roles is advising the board on required qualifications and credentials of applicants?
That's certainly reasonable.
And I think that more clearly states what our current role is.
Like what we may potentially do, right, Brenda?
Right.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, historically, what was the interview written in there for? Because when I transferred my license in 2011, I had to have an interview and I was super duper nervous about it and it ended up being nothing, significant. So I'm just curious as to the historical reason for having the interview. Was it for character reference?
I don't think any of us go far enough back to know.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I had to do it too as a new grad. Like I remember
Yeah.
going down there and parking and yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so she's writing, advise the board on required qualifications and credentials of applicants for occupational therapy licensure and make recommendations. We may have that. Yeah, let's keep reading through and make sure we have it all, so we can leave that there though, Ingrid, all right, so we looked at 3, which was 2, right?
Yes.
Examining the qualification credentials of applicants for occupational therapy license, recommendations thereon to the board. Provide advice and recommendations to the board respecting the modification, amendment, and supplementation of rules and regs, standards, policies, and procedures respecting occupational therapy license and practice.
That might say what I just typed.
Yeah, I think that's kind of similar to what you were thinking. That's why I was like, I think it's kind of
Yeah.
in. And then number 5 is serve as a liaison between and among the board, licensed occupational therapists and occupational therapy assistants and occupational therapy professional association. Ingrid, do we need to put practitioners there or just leave occupational therapists? Since we have,
Yeah, I thought we should change that to practitioners.
that's a number 5.
Yeah.
Brenda, when we finish this, will you help me remember that I have a question back on the composition and appointment? I don't want to get off of this, but I can't forget. I know I'm going to forget. Okay. And then 6, review reimbursement for attendance at board meetings and for other expenses and specifically authorized by the board. Do we leave that in there, Dr. Van, in case we ever do need reimbursement for attendance, or?
Well, at the present time, you don't need to review them. You need to submit them, okay?
Right. Well, it just
we-
says that we receive reimbursement for attending.
Right, well, if somebody, but we don't automatically send reimbursement. People have to say they want to be reimbursed and give us, fill out a sheet, and then we process it. So again, you're entitled to it, okay? But again, if you don't ask for it, we don't give it to you. That's
Right.
just how we work. Because for a lot of our board members never even ask for it, and we don't give it to them. Some of them have to ask for it because they're taking time off from their faculty jobs, and they have to be compensated from the state, and they can't be compensated in 2 ways at the same day. So they take time and they transfer it back to the school. So again, that's what. So again, but you have to request it.
So should we leave it in there about the reimbursement, or would there be a chance that we would be required to attend in person and then have travel expenses?
Well, again, if I don't know that you might want to leave it in. There might be occasional time when you have to, but more importantly, I think the key here is that we're trying to make it easier. And I think that one of the things I've noticed, and you'll take this, hopefully with a grain of salt. If you don't set a regular scheduled meeting, okay, then it becomes difficult for people to plan, and we don't seem to get great attendance. When I hear people say, well, we'll put out a Zoom poll, or we'll do a doodle, and then it never gets done. If you say we want to meet every quarter, okay, we'll have a quarterly meeting. We'll say we want to meet the first Thursday of every month. Everybody will know that, and it's done, okay? Or you want to meet the first Wednesday of the week of every quarter, okay? January, March, that way you can do it. But it seems to be that when we leave it too open, people can't seem to get their schedule straight. And despite the fact that this is designed to have better participation, sometimes it falls down. And I think it's really from the issue of too much opportunity for diverse scheduling, as opposed to saying these are the regular times, and then everybody can plan to participate. But that's something that you can decide what you want to do.
So as far as number 6, Dr. Van, would you rather that the wording change from receive reimbursement to submit reimbursement?
No, you're entitled to receive the reimbursement.
Okay.
for meeting and expenses, okay?
I'll leave it alone then.
Leave it
Okay.
alone.
Okay. So it goes on to number 7 here, which was added previously or revised previously. Advise and assist the board in the review and approval of state and/or national agencies which certify continuing education units, and request and obtain from applicants for renewal of licensure such additional information as the advisory committee may deem necessary or appropriate to enable it to make the evaluations and provide the recommendations for which the committee is responsible.
I had thought about this morning and wondered if we could make it a little simpler. Advise and assist the board in establishing rules regarding what is deemed qualifying continuing professional education.
But I don't know that we really do that anymore with CE Broker.
Well, we create, I guess,
The list.
with the rules, we create what the definitions of what qualifies for continuing ed. We're not the ones who approve the courses, but we're the ones who say that the course has to pertain to OT.
Right.
Or we're the ones who say that if you are in an OTD program, that counts.
Right.
So we're creating
I think
the rules
this-
of what is qualified continuing professional education.
I think 7 came out of when we were sitting there reviewing each course.
Exactly.
That's when we added that. Because that became like our primary job. Like most of our meetings were spent doing a lot of that with the committee. So I get what you're saying. Like we need to rephrase it so that it reflects like we're the ones who dictate like what is an approved vendor, like AOTA, LOTA, like we have that. And then sort of what you're saying, like an approved course. I mean, you know, like the people who are in the bridge programs, things like that. Like that's what I feel like that needs to reflect, because that was really written when we were sitting down approving each and every course.
So this whole thing would need to go, the number 7.
Well, I think it needs to be somewhere. I mean, if you take this up, if you don't look at this and we basically, like if I ask the committee today, like what in your minds are our duties and responsibilities? I think that would come up as far as like the CE broker helping to determine like if they have a question, whether or not. And then the other part that's really not even in here is all the ethical, advising the board on the ethical questions, because that's not even mentioned in here.
Yeah, I see that.
So as far as 7 goes, like if we can word it so that we help the board to determine like, I don't know what the word is, the appropriate, not vendors, but like approved providers.
Well, that's to go broader with just the advise and assist the board in I'm struggling.
Just like recommend to the board what constitutes
appropriate
continuing education.
Right. I'm just doing this to see how people think that
yeah, no, I'm trying to look at
maybe regarding instead of on what.
Thank you. Yes. Regarding what constitutes,
Regarding continuing professional education requirements.
okay. Oh, I've already had that. Regarding continuing professional education requirements.
And then that would include, like, we recommend that they take the laws and rules
Yeah, I was
class,
gonna say,
or we recommend the ethics class.
And qualifying continuing professional education requirements.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so do,
We need the word qualifying? I think it's the word recording.
refer to a lot in subchapter H. The,
I-
but I guess we do need it because we're setting out this kind of a thing qualifies for CEUs and this kind of thing does not.
But we're not really doing that. We're saying who is appropriate providers. So like if LOTA does that, then we're saying it's okay.
Right. But we're setting it up that the qualifying means anything that LOTA has says is okay. Anything that AOTA.
Okay. Technical question for you, Dr. Van. As
sorry,
I'm
what do
looking at like I have a technical question. Like I'm looking at the original rules, like that's sort of in effect right now. And it's not really matching this document. And like when we bring this to the board, I'm assuming that we're gonna have to revise like the original one.
Well, no, first of all, when you finish this exercise, we will put it back in we will, utilizing your markup, we will put together a set of rules that would probably be best done amending by substitution, since it's such a broad range of changes, okay?
Okay.
And at that point, we'll be showing the board the markups as well. So I don't think the real issue is what you have presently. If you're creating new rules, you're going to change them and you're going to be amending by substitution is the easiest way to do a large document like this. Now, if some of the board members say, well, I want to change this, I don't want to change that, I like everything except this paragraph, then we'll take that under advisement, accept their changes, because the board is really the one that is promulgating the rules. We are allowing you to suggest what you want, but the board has to accept, reject, or modify what you recommend.
Okay. So I don't know if y'all have like the original one with you, but it basically said that we would like evaluate organizations and entities providing or offering to provide continuing professional education programs for OT practitioners and provide recommendations to the board with respect to the board's recognition and approval of such organizations and entities as sponsored of qualifying continual professional education programs and activities pursuant to section 1969 of the rules. So that kind of sounds more like what we're trying to say here, right? Like that we're I don't know. I don't have it on I just think we're struggling with stuff. Like it's very similar to like the original rules. And that's why I asked Dr. Van that. And I kind of feel like we're trying to like modify something that may just be easier if we just sort of like take this out and say, hey, what are our delegated duties and responsibilities? And sort of, because a lot of this we're making it fit what we do, but it really isn't part of what we do. Does that make sense? Like I kind of feel like, you know, the things that we do would be this, but it's written in like 4 or 5 different numbers. Like, it's just not like simple and succinct. Y'all agree, or?
I guess I feel like so far what we've modified are things that we do. And if you think that we're missing things from this list that we do, I think we just need to keep adding to the list.
Yeah, no, it is, but I feel like like if you scroll up a little bit, like I don't know if I feel like we're kind of saying the same thing multiple times. So 1 and 2 are really for the applicants. And then number 4 would be the rules and regs, how we update those, keep those current. 5 is a liaison between the board and the practitioners and the associations. 6 is just like kind of weirdly thrown in there. I feel like that's not a duty or a responsibility, but I guess it needs to go in there, although I don't think it goes there. And then 7, we're trying to say more along the lines of what was, yeah, number 6. So, okay, right. So I'm just trying to make sure we're not being super repetitive. And then 7 would be the continuing ed requirements. So I guess the only other one that would be in there was, do we add an 8 for assisting the board with the ethical issues that arise?
I feel like that's not in here unless we consider that as being part of number 4. But I don't think so. I think you're right. That seems to be missing.
Yeah, it's nowhere, nothing in here really discusses like the ethical issues that, and I mean, is it technically, I don't know, maybe we need to ask someone that's kind of above us of like, when someone files a complaint against somebody, we have to review it. Does that, like the ethical obligations, protecting the consumers, you know, that kind of language?
If I might interrupt you for a minute, basically, if we get a complaint, it goes through the Department of Investigations. Now, if you want to, you'll probably have to have more meetings, but if you want to be involved in what they do, the board can take that under advisement. You can request it. But again, I think the key here would be, it's not just ethical, but it's any disciplinary issues that may come up. And
That's the word I was looking for.
I think the key is, do you want to get involved, or only when there's a question by the Department of Investigations? Or you want to get involved in any time they do it, or you want to just get involved whenever they have a problem?
I mean, I'm comfortable, and I'm not going to speak on behalf of everybody, but like, I'm comfortable in how it is. I'm just trying to represent in this document how, like, when we do that, like, the board comes to us for these disciplinary actions where they need our opinion and vote. Like, how do we put that in words for this document as our duty or responsibility? Like Ingrid's right, advise and assist the Department of Investigation as needed for issues of ethical or disciplinary discussions, or?
And I would put in a when requested clause.
Right, no, for sure.
I don't really think you want to be involved in every disciplinary action against every OT. I think that's probably,
Nope.
you'll be meeting
Nope.
every month.
Nope. Not, no, just when, I'm just trying to represent how it is now. I guess, does that make sense to everybody of like including?
I agree, Darby, that we should list out kind of what all of our duties are, and that is a current duty when there's a question regarding, it seems like, not just disciplinary, but like when questions come up about how to like, what do the rules say or whatever, and we have those kinds of discussions like that, those things don't seem
Interpreting the
represented.
rules.
Yeah.
So interpreting the rules and regs. And I mean, our mission says protect the consumer. I kind of feel like somewhere in here, we might need to mention that.
What did I capture that with this?
I think you did, but I think we need to put when requested by the board.
When requested.
So that it doesn't mean that we do every single one of them, but only when they request our opinion.
I put it in there, advise and assist the Department of Investigations as requested.
I'd say by the board.
As requested by the board, okay?
And then maybe, do we need to add something, or can we just add it in one of them about, you know? I don't know what to say.
I was wondering if even just in the opening of the paragraph where it says the advisory committee is authorized, like, is that like where you put in like in their mission to protect the consumer of occupational therapy is authorized to do all these rules that we do? Because like we talk about what our mission is, but I don't know that it like says it in there. And
Right.
that might help provide a link.
I'm going to read the mission again. It's ultimately to protect the public, that is the consumers of OT, by regulating competent practice and upholding the standard set forth by the governing rules and regulations. So I think what you said, Brenda, just sort of adding in there, you know, and
so that somewhere it's clearly spelled out what our mission is, and there's a match between our rules and our mission.
right.
Because I don't know that it's mentioned anywhere else in the rules.
Yeah, but I mean, I just feel like if we're gonna like list out what our duties and responsibilities are, like that should be
That should be one of them.
correct. It should be mentioned if that's the ultimate mission. And I mean, I just want y'all to think about like, and I mean, I know Glenn, you're newer to this crew, but like if someone comes up to you and you say like, oh, I'm on the OT advisory committee, and say like, well, what exactly do you do? Like think in your mind of what the answer is and make sure that these 6 things or 7 things that are listed include those. And like this is accurately reflecting what you do.
So you want this to kind of be a mission statement?
No, I don't want it to be the mission
Sort of?
statement. Like you keep the mission statement in
No.
mind, but like if somebody
Okay.
said, what are your responsibilities as an OTAC
Okay.
member?
Okay.
Like, you know, what exactly do you do? Like if you're trying to, if somebody asks you, or you're trying to like get them to be on the committee, like what do you do on
Okay.
OTAC? What is OTAC? Like what do you do? What do you in
I
your
got you.
y'all minds, what are our duties? And you know, you're just getting into it, so I don't even know that you've seen the whole gamut, but I think like at this point, after a few meetings, you're getting, you know, a much broader picture. You know, we all have varying degrees of years of experience on it, but do these 6 things, you know, maybe jot down like exactly what you would say if somebody says that, and then make sure that that's included in these.
So I added this up here at that opening statement. The advisory committee is authorized by the board in its mission to protect the consumers of occupational therapy to, I guess I would need a comma there. And then we have the list.
Okay.
And a Y in therapy.
What's that?
And a Y in therapy,
Yeah.
right before your comma.
Yep. I don't know why the letters space out. We'll have to correct.
It's on justification right there.
Okay.
It's a formatting thing.
Last time, didn't we? I see.
Okay, so for that, like, so here we have,
Forget it.
one would be advise the board on the qualification and credentials of applicants for OT licensure and make recommendations to the board. Assist when requested in examining the qualification and credentials of the applicants. Provide advice and recommendations on the modification, amendment, and supplementation of the rules and regs, the standards, the policies, and the procedures. That would be like when people like write in, like, I don't know if we need the word interpreting, but I don't know if we go there, with questions of supervision, continuing ed, that kind of thing. 5 would be serve as a liaison between and among the practitioners, the board, and the professional associations. 6, again, is just sort of the outlier. I don't know what we do with that. 7 would be advise and assist the board on the continuing professional education requirements. And then 8 would be advise and assist the Department of Investigations as requested by the board an issue of ethical or disciplinary action. Like, do y'all feel like, I think it's really 7 because one's crossed out. Do y'all feel like those things encompass like everything you would think of when you say, what do you do as an OTAC member? Is there anything we're leaving out?
I think that covers it.
I can't think of anything right now.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like that's everything. I don't know what to do with number 6. I don't know why that's really bothering me, but like, I just don't even know.
It almost seems like maybe, and I was looking, like trying to scroll through to see, was there a better place for it? Like
I just don't.
It's not a duty or a responsibility.
I know. I mean,
So like,
would it be okay that we just take it out? I mean, I know Dr. Van said that we're like entitled to that, but
is there something in the broader like rule, and this would be, I guess, the Dr. Van question, is there something in the broader rules of the board that says that people on advisory committees can receive reimbursement, or like, is it even something that we need to?
I think we can stick it under B, the next thing, that when we get to it, honestly, because it's not a duty or responsibility.
Right.
But I think we can stick it in there. Well, yeah. So if y'all think that that sort of encompasses everything, we'll move on to B and just figure it out. Like, in discharging the functions authorized under the section, the advisory committee and the individual members thereof shall, when acting within the scope of such authority, be deemed agents of the board. All information obtained by this committee pursuant to these sections shall be considered confidential. Advisory committee members are prohibited from communicating, disclosing, or in any way releasing to anyone other than the board any information or documents obtained when acting as agents of the board without first obtaining the written authorization for the board. Just have to make sure. So that's basically saying like the section 1961, is that like A2 and 6? Like, we may have to go back and fix that based on our numbers, because that's the duties and responsibilities. So we'll have to fix that. And then I think at the end of this, we can say, you know, committee members can receive reimbursement for attendance at board meetings or other expenses authorized by the board. Don't y'all think that that can just be stuck in there?
Mm-hmm.
I think that makes more sense.
Me too.
Yeah.
Would that be all part of B, or would that be a C? Or
I mean, you can make it C if you want. I don't, yeah.
Yeah, probably a separate.
I don't understand the word discharging at the beginning of B, like,
In doing the functions,
you know, in,
just, yeah,
I guess it's okay, but I just, like, all these, like, the wording is just,
it's superfluous, yeah.
I'm like,
But
tell me what you're really trying to say.
performing would probably be an easier understood word.
Oh, that's a good word, Brenda. I like that.
What are we on when you said that? I'm sorry.
Well, I know.
Performing versus discharging.
And I guess when we, if we can remember this, when we advertise for the position, this would be a good like thing to include for people to understand. Like, I know Glenn, you and I had a phone conversation and I kind of went through like the things that we did, just to give people a better understanding of what they're committing to and
Good idea.
responsible for. And Amy and I also had the same conversation. Like, I mean, what exactly did I sign up for is always everyone's question.
It might be, I know that we have an online presence somewhere, but these things might be good under, like, to just this part to put online somewhere as far as what we do. That way it's easier to send them to a quick web landing or something like that, rather than a document and sections and stuff like that. I don't know, just an idea.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we've kind of talked about like an orientation kind of packet, like orientation thing. It just never really, I think the office has their own orientation. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
And
Okay.
taking a look at section C, our wonky little statement or wonky little paragraph, should we put OTAC members can receive reimbursement?
Or
Because
May. Yeah,
or may, yeah, because that looks a little global.
that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that used to really be when we all had to go to New Orleans for the meetings. Like some people had to get hotels because it took so long to drive and, okay. All right. So I feel like we encompassed everything that we actually do.
I think so.
All right. So if y'all are okay with this, I want to propose a question that I'm not trying to open a can of worms. So I just want to make sure. Back in the section of composition of the OTAC committee, do y'all feel like we need to put a statement about like ethnicity or diversity or inclusion? You don't really say it, and I mean, I'm not saying that we need to. I'm just kind of throwing it out there just to be sort of politically correct or just to be all inclusive. Like, I know that we should probably try to do that.
In other words, like a first statement, the advisory committee is committed to diversity, representing the diversity of occupational therapists.
Well, I mean, I guess like and then I know that we try to do this, but it's been a little difficult is like to make an effort so that the committee is diverse in multiple things like ethnicity, like location, like a lot of things, but I kind of feel like I don't want to just do it to be trendy, but I kind of feel like we might need a sort of statement about being inclusive and diverse. And I don't know. What are y'all thoughts? I'm just throwing it out there because
I like it.
we don't have it. And it is something that we look at, like we always say, it'd be great to have more males on the board. It'd be great to have people from different, like there's a lot of things that we really try to do. It's just makes it hard. So it's kind of like the OT assistant. Like if we can make some effort
Mhm.
and then just figuring out.
I think it makes sense to be put with maybe with section A a little bit higher, because that is your desire to be like your desires to be diverse within the field of within the, you know, the field of occupational therapy. And so since you're already stating your intent to be diverse, then maybe you put it in there, but maybe that's maybe it's secondary to like what you want out of the professional who is coming onto the board, because you want the board to be diverse within the field, and then maybe second to that you want them to be diverse within these other categories.
Yeah, I
Maybe
think-
not, but I mean, I think you prioritize occupational therapy before you prioritize the person's, I don't know, like right
Well,
now is super popular, like gender or race.
Like, look at C, if we could put something there, because we talk about like geographic diversity, but I think we should include things as well, like what Glenn's saying, like,
Right, because I mean, if a person is extremely qualified at, you know, within gerontology, but you already have somebody or two people who live in Baton Rouge, like, are you going to pass on the gerontologist simply because they're in Baton Rouge? Or, I mean, I don't know. I'm new to this, so I'm not sure, but I just.
no, I mean, it definitely goes by like, there's no priority list, but like locations considered, genders considered, and practice area. So we kind of have to look at all three. And like, I know you've never been a part of this, but I think everybody else in this committee has, is that when we review all the resumes, those things pop up,
Right.
you know, of like, oh, well, he or she has experience in this, but they live here, but they did, you know, and like, it's not like a hierarchical list. It's just a consideration. So that maybe in
Sure.
C, we add something, not just on geographic diversity, but, and I don't know how to say it, but those of y'all in academic may be better. Amy, your hand's up. Is that from before? All right, okay, go ahead.
It's just, I thought we were ending at 12 and I need to leave.
Yeah, we are 12:08. We have 1 minute.
Know if there's anything, if I can just go, or do you need me to stay to vote on anything? Or I just didn't want to just leave, or I wasn't sure how we do
No,
that.
thank you. We literally have 1 minute left. So if we just want to vote on these changes, and then we can leave that, the other thing that I brought up, we can start there next time. Yeah, my timer is literally about to go off. So thank you, Amy, for bringing that to our attention. So we basically looked at section 1957 through 1961. So I would just need a motion to accept the proposed changes from section 1957 to 1961.
Motion to accept.
Can someone a second?
A second.
Sorry.
Okay. And I'm just making a note about the ethical thing to add. I know we don't have anything else to vote on that I know of, but what happens when Amy leaves? Is that a Dr. Rand question, or Ingrid, do you know? I know we've had this discussion before. Dr. Rand or Jacinta?
The quorum would remain unless somebody chooses to call a quorum count according to Sturgis. So you can continue to conduct business. But if somebody decides they don't want to conduct business anymore and they call for a quorum count and you don't have a quorum, then you would have to shut it down.
Okay, so we're able to continue, but we're just not, okay. All right, well, thank you.
So Darby, you requested a motion to accept and a second, but you didn't actually ask for a vote or anybody against, or however we were.
Okay, everyone for?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Anyone abstain? And Dr. Mann, can you check for any public comment?
Check again, one moment, please, ma'am.
Thank you, Ingrid.
No public comment yet.
Okay, thank you. All right, Amy, thank you.
All right, see y'all next time.
Okay, and we'll just update you on what's left. Okay, so that's everything for the old business. The new business, we've already done the laws and rules, but the first order of business is the OTAC member terms. So Kim Solari's term ends in December of 2022. She has submitted a letter of intent to continue on the committee. So based on our earlier conversation, Dr. Van, I'm assuming that all we need to do is give you the what is it, the recommendation that she has the intent to continue on the committee?
Yes, and please just send me an email confirming that. I'll get it on the agenda and it'll be decided on November 21st. And I think she will certainly be reappointed.
Okay. All right. And we did number 2. So the next thing would be the future meeting date. I think the original agenda had November 11th, but that is a holiday. So it was switched to November 18th. I'm sorry, November 18th. We've already been sent the Zoom link. And then we also will have, just to remind y'all, a 30-minute presentation by NBCOT. We'll also have our hour, unless y'all want to do longer, of the rules and regs. And then Ingrid and I are going to work with Dr. Van for meeting dates for next year, but I really wanted to just sort of have a brief discussion with y'all about suggestions for frequency. Our goal was to get through the entire rules and regs by the end of this year. And we felt like given an hour would be appropriate, although you know, sometimes I feel like we could go longer and sometimes I feel like we're all just done. But what are y'all's suggestions so that we can really get through this? And a reminder that by the end of the year, and definitely by the beginning of the year, springish, AOTA should be finalized their paper for the dry needling. So that was basically what was holding us up before. And then we decided to like just string through it, the whole document. So thoughts, questions, comments?
Overall, I like the idea of an hour. I've kind of, after an hour, I know I'm kind of like, okay, it's a little spent.
Right.
I mean, I could probably go a little longer, but it seems to be. I think we need to meet next year at least 6 times, like every other month. I don't think we could do it less than that. Now, I don't know if anyone thinks we need to do more, but personally, I don't think we could do it less and make it through, you know, our goal of trying to update these rules.
How do y'all feel like that every other month?
At least, because like I feel like we keep seeing, and Darby, you know, like we just keep seeing this as a goal and we're just
Right.
not getting there.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, I feel like we haven't even tackled like the big decisions.
Right.
I don't know if Ingrid, you feel that way, but like when we sat down to review it.
OTA supervision, that's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And just all the like definitions, like we went back and forth with that for hours.
Actually don't think that the definitions are going to be that big a deal because after we have updated the rules, then we'll go back, look at what definitions are needed, and the AOTA has mostly got all that. So I think we were trying to put the definitions first, and that's what was throwing us off. If we just update the rules first, then we're gonna be able to see what definitions do we even need.
Yeah. So, and I mean, unless y'all don't think it's helpful, like I think I don't want to speak for Ingrid, but like I know that I'm willing to work with Ingrid or somebody on like going through it, put like suggestions and considerations, because I feel like that did help with the time. Like this stuff that we're haggling with was done like way years ago and things have changed since then. But like us going through it and kind of weeding it out and saying, here's what we suggested, you know, so we're not just in the sense of time, you know, just to try to be able to accomplish this goal. And then, so if we do every other, since we're skipping December, do y'all want to start with January? And then go kind of from there, so we can do like all the odd months. And then honestly, I don't know that picking like a certain like first Tuesday of the week is really gonna work, because there's so many schedules as far as like Dr. Van and then his board meetings and things like that. And then I'm gonna assume that it's better to keep it on a Friday, unless y'all tell me otherwise. You know, now that we have Zoom, I feel like it's so much easier.
I know for myself, it is easier on Friday. That's my day that's got flexibility in it to accommodate.
Yeah, me as well. So, okay, so Ingrid and I will kind of come up with a schedule for every other month. And then we'll still commit to an hour for each thing, and we'll go from there. So the other thing, just so I don't want to mention, in the prep for the NBCOT presentation, I think a lot of what she's going to go through is like I don't know if that y'all saw, they recently got an award for their program they offer, it's called JEDI. I can't remember what the J is for, but it's like,
I think.
it's the equity, diversity, inclusion is the EDI. I don't know what the J is, but
For justice, I think.
justice, yes,
That's
yeah. Anyway, they have like a self-study kind of program, but if you want to, or if you have time, just kind of get familiar with their website and stuff, because she'll be kind of going through a lot of it. And you know, we did tell her to stick to 30 minutes, but she did confirm that she'll be there on the 18th. So we'll put her first, and then anything else that comes up. But okay, so it sounds like we have a plan for this. So we'll continue to just muddle through the rules and regs. Hopefully we'll get to the end quick, so that we can do this laborious process that Dr. Van mentioned earlier of actually getting it to change.
I'm reconsidering about the hour, and let me see what other people think. If we meet 6 times, maybe we would need more than an hour. Maybe we should commit 90 minutes. What do other people think about that?
I would agree with that. Given the fact that there's so much process after even we're done with this, it's going to take, which is going to be my next question. Is there a target date that we have to have this to the board by?
So our initial target was the end of this year. What our holdup was the dry needling. So that was sort of like lingering. Now AOTA has set the deadline, that the paper will be, they're already in the process of writing the paper, and that it'll be approved and should be published for public in what they call spring of 2023. So I know for a fact that they're meeting continuously, and they've already started the document. Like, I've been kind of keeping up with that progress. Doesn't mean that we have to be finished by then, but that in previous years was a holdup, because we were just adding that. And then we sort of decided as a committee, like, if we're just going to do that, and we're doing continuing ed, and we're doing this, we might as well go through it all. So, I mean, I guess now the new goal is, I don't know, like, if we do an hour and a half, it's as quickly as we can get through it. Like, if we want to say like June, maybe, I don't know. I mean, I want to be realistic, but I honestly have no idea. I mean,
There's no deadline for your work. It is your deadline to make and operate by, okay? We will support you. The key is, once you give it to us, we have to go through it, staff has to go through it, probably come back to you all with what we think is the staff's recommendations for modification or adjustment. Then you approve that, then it goes to the board, then the board says, okay, and then we start the rulemaking process as outlined earlier. So again, I think you all make your own deadline in this regard. Once we get it, we need some time to go through it, make sure it's in the conformity of all of the language that the APA style requirements and the Administrative Procedure Act requirements are, and then we'll come back to you with that, and you'll say, okay, we like it, we don't like it, change this, whatever. And then ultimately, when you approve it, it goes to the board. So you have no real deadline except what you impose upon yourself.
Yeah, so there you have it. I mean, honestly, my 6-year term ends in
That's-
December of 2023. So
That's what I was just looking at, Darby. It would be nice to get it before, like,
Yeah,
then that would require, I'm afraid, though, more than 6 total hours of our discussion. So we might want to look at
yeah,
90 minutes, or if not, kind of, if we know in advance, we're gonna, look at it for an hour and then take a 10-minute break and do another hour, or
yeah.
because
Or even
it's
committing,
a
like,
lot.
right,
And
yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, I feel like, and then once we kind of go through it, we still need to, like, go through it. But I mean,
right.
the lingering process is hard for me. Like, I'd rather just like tackle it. Like, if we need a break, take a break, and then just kind of keep going. So we can kind of consider that if we maybe
Right.
next meeting in November, we can all sort of like say,
Or would we even want to, and I feel like I'm about to get shot for being the messenger here, but would we want to say that we plan for more frequent meetings, and then, we do come to a conclusion, like a stopping point with that, then we could say, well, in light of that, we don't have to have the April meeting, or
right,
would
right.
it make more sense to plan for more ahead of time?
Probably, because stuff's more likely to get canceled or things to come up. If we don't have a quorum, then technically we can't
Right.
like do it, and we definitely wouldn't be able to vote on it. So I mean, or like every so often do like maybe 3 hours, like do 90 minutes, take a break, and then come back to it, or something like that. Like, let's just kind of think about all those things so that we can come up with a decision in November. And then have a game plan for next year with the goal of it being like submitted,
Mhm.
maybe by like August, September, October, so that it's done.
Or maybe if we can even think in terms of kind of chunking what's left and planning to, so, we'll have these meetings, and this meeting coming up, we'll talk about this for at least an hour, or until we get to the end of section Q or whatever, so that does kind of put more goalposts for us than just the clock.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea too. So Brenda and I both expire next year, just so y'all know. And then it'll be in the hands of whoever decides to take over. The next two that are equivalent would be Ingrid and Kelly. They would end in 2025 if they stay on their full term. They're full optional. So yeah, so that means in June on that agenda, we need to advertise for 2 positions on the committee. All right.
But remember that most people in these roles serve until they are replaced.
I mean, I'm trying. Didn't expect to be chair, but that's okay. All right, well, as long as there are no further public comments or questions, can you just check one more time, please, Dr. Van?
Yes, hang on one second. I'm checking at 3 different places, and no, not yet.
Okay, any other questions by the committee? All right, we will officially adjourn at 12:23. So have a great and safe Halloween weekend.
You too.
All right, thank y'all very much.
Thank
Alan,
you.
Thanks.
Alan and I are going to stay on, but we'll see you all in, next time.
All
Okay,
right.
November 18th. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a good weekend.
Close Glenn's window, please.
I just made you
just-
host. I'm about to steal it back. And then
Okay.
I'm gonna hop off, y'all.
All right,
And
you
then I
made me
can
host. I'll
off.
take care of it.
Okay, he's removed.
All right.
Don't report, making you host. You got it, Dr. Van?
I got it. Thank you.
All right, and I'm off.
Thank you. Alan,
Yes,
I
sir.
sent you that spreadsheet,
Yep.
and I want to show you something. Let me share my screen real quick. Where's my spreadsheet? Why is it showing up here? Close this. Close that. Okay. Let me close that. All right. Let's see. Not sure why it won't share, but let's see what it shares. Okay. Alan, do you see the spreadsheet?
Yep.
All right. What I'm going to ask you is, I sorted this, and in sorting this, I found this interesting situation. Randall Eugene Simmons, same day, same time, submitted. But if you go to back office, he's got an active license. So I'm trying to figure out how these things happen. Do you have any thoughts on it?
I mean, I'm trying to get to your line. You got him, so you got it sorted by first name or
No, I got it sorted by, I
application
sorted it by
status?
application status.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I'll do that too, just to make sure that we're all right.
So 92 and 93 on my sheet.
'92 and '93. Yeah, I don't have the same person. I just saw it. I got and submitted as the last grouping.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be because it's an alphabet. Yeah. My 92 is Amelia. And 93 is Camille.
All right. Well, first thing I did was I sorted by application submitted day. Then the next thing I did was I sorted by application submitted.
Let me just, what was the name again?
Randall Eugene Simmons. Can you see mine? Is it that big enough or what?
It's kind of small, but I can make it bigger on my end. I got
Hang on.
the screen then.
I'm not sure why my screen share is acting so funky.
Okay, I see him. Randall Eugene Simmons.
Okay, so see, same dates, same times. Okay, but if you go in back office, he's got an active license.
I'm guessing, and this just happened with one I was working with Felicia on, is that for some reason, something happens and like the applicant will apply for a license online, and then the analyst will, for some reason, create a manual application in back office.
Oh, crap. Okay.
And I'll guarantee you that that's what happened here. Just give me 1 minute. Let me get back to my.
So what we're going to have to start admonishing them is don't create manual applications.
Right. And I mean, I don't know why they did that, because the difficulty is now I got to wait. If I go delete one, I could actually delete the wrong one. So I got to wait for them to go finish the approval process, and then I'll delete this one that's still in process.
But what I'm trying to tell you, but if you go to back office.
Yeah, that's what I'm going right now.
And you put Randall Eugene Simmons in, it says he has an active license. So we in essence have three. The one that's active and the two that are still waiting to be submitted, waiting to be acted on.
And the first session date was 3:30. 3:31, 2. Let me go on his, hold on one second. Yeah, we need to make that pretty clear, is there's really no reason to, especially now that we're not taking any paper applications anymore.
Right.
Absolutely no. Yeah. It's showing here that, and I'm fixing to withdraw it from his dashboard. Well, it's still showing he's got one open, because I bet now if I go back here. Yeah, that's reading off of his 22, not 831. Yeah, that's reading some, yeah, submitted off of his renewal applications, but he still has one that's in process here. Let me withdraw that one and see if that cleans it up.
All right, so this report then grabs renewal applications as well as initial.
That's what it looked like in this particular case, because it looked like he was in the process of doing one. But he's current up to date now, 8/31/23. So he just did one not too long ago, obviously. Let me look at his
But these date back to 2019.
those two, right. You know what? 2019.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's data that's hanging around from when we migrated that stuff over from Big Picture, Dr. Collada.
I don't know. That's why I'm asking you.
Yeah, let me dig into that a little bit more.
All right, good
I
enough.
bet if I go on my files that I pulled before we handed all that over to Lumen to Tuhin and them, that it'll show he had these in there.
All right, well, that's fine. That's the kind of thing we need. But then we can start cleaning up this stuff and getting rid of all these crazy things that don't belong there.
Yeah, that's the thing, is being able to get that. Yep.
All right. All right, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
All right, sir. All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.